So Jean-François Lisée is on the line, and he is perhaps unwittingly in the news today. We've been talking about this for a while, so we will bring it up. First of all, Jean-François, welcome, thank you, and
Bonne année.
Happy New Year.
Very happy New Year to you. Bonne année à tous. Thanks for having me back.
Pleasure. Mais je veux commencer over what you did partially over the holidays. So my understanding, look, we talked about the Sophie Durocher column at length in the last half hour. There are not a lot of people very happy with what she had to say, which is not surprising if you're an Anglophone or Allophone here. She's basically calling us all crybabies and whiners. Okay, that's her job, I guess, at the Journal. But at the end of her story, she noted what apparently happened to you. So you were at the Club Med in Charlevoix.
That's correct.
And what happened?
Well, I wrote a brief review on X and Facebook saying that it was. I've been a member of Club Med for years. I've been in a number of Club Med. Actually, I did a series for Radio Canada, of 6 hours on the story of Club Med when I was a reporter in Quebec. So I was eager to see what they would have done in Charlevoix. And it's very pleasurable, well done. Decoration is great. I thought the food was great, except for wine and not enough cheese. The personnel was very kind, but mostly Mexican, some French, and some Quebecers. But I had to acknowledge that too expensive. It's really too expensive, even with the 40% rebate if you book early. But that being said, I also said, listen, I couldn't be served in French at some points at the reception and at the ski shop,
okay,
which are two places where you should have people being able to talk to you in French at all times. Given that you're in Charlevoix and given that $40 million of our tax dollars have been put to support the creation of Club Med. So I thought that this was unacceptable, but I'm sure they'll be working on it, but that's a fact.
My question is it the specific person who was you were dealing with that could not speak French, or did no one in the shop speak French? Could you have been served by someone else in French?
No, at the time when I went to the reception, someone that could have been speaking French was serving 3 other clients. The only person that was available for me could not speak French, but I talked to her in Spanish and in English. And at the ski shop, there was just one person couldn't speak French, wouldn't say hello and goodbye in French.
I agree that is unacceptable.
Well, hold on. What do you mean wouldn't say? As in they had a choice to and chose not to? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sure. Because when I arrive, I say bonjour. He says hello. All right. And when I leave, I say merci, au revoir. And he says goodbye. So I thought the minimum would have said, I don't speak French, but I will give you a little signal that I respect your language by telling you au revoir.
And in the interim, you had spoken to that person either in a mix of English or Spanish? Is that what you're saying?
That person at the ski shop, we spoke English.
Okay.
So
I think you're right, and you should have been able to be served in French. That's not a question to me. But does this speak to a bigger problem? I mean, it sounds like very specific circumstances and an incident at a place that caters to tourists and people largely from outside of Quebec. So does this to you indicate that French is on the decline?
In and of itself, no.
Okay.
But I can give you a slew of other statistics that show that. No. But listen, I think it's market failure. I see that they have a lot of international people. In fact, they give you the time in Quebec and in Rio de Janeiro because they have a lot of Brazilian clients. Mm-hmm. But listen, it's incumbent about of an international company, whether it's Sheraton, Hilton, or Club Med,
sure,
to make sure that at all times you can answer the local population in French. I'm sure they would not deny that. And if we ask them, I was expecting a call, really, to say that they were sorry and they were working on this and they'll make sure that, training will be done, okay? But I think it's, I'm a public person, but even just as a private client, I have to say, listen, do better.
Okay, listen, I don't think anyone would disagree with your assessment. To do better certainly makes sense. The fact that someone went out of their way not to say bonjour or au revoir after you'd said it, that's very strange. But maybe my bigger question here, Jean-François, is the fact that, Sophie Durocher decided to take that little thing that happened, that one incident, and turn this into yet another example of, French gets no respect in Quebec. Look, another case where someone didn't speak French to someone. In this case, it happened to be Jean-François Lisée. And I'm wondering whether you think that's fair. Yes, this is a Club Med. It seems to be a Club Med problem. It wasn't the entire resort where you couldn't speak to anyone in French.
That's correct.
Someone just had, whatever. They made a mistake hiring this person, not realizing that he or she wasn't bilingual or wasn't prepared to speak French. Couldn't it just have been let go at that?
Well, Sophie Durocher's piece today is simply quoting things being said in the Gazette about the situation of Anglos and French in Quebec. And if you read only these clips, you would believe that we're in the kind of totalitarian Francophone state trying to deliberately hinder Anglos. I mean, I know these quotes. I've seen these quotes for years, and I think there's overreaction in the Anglo community to a number of things, and there's room for criticism, of course, of the language policies and the CAC language policies. I'm one of those critics on both sides. But listen, there's in Montreal, it is not uncommon that I cannot be served in French. It is not uncommon.
Where?
It is not uncommon that you can't be served in French in Montreal.
That's correct.
Where?
Parking lots, very frequently deliver people from Domino's Pizza or Skip the Dishes.
Sure.
Don't speak French
right,
at all.
They're relative newcomers, perhaps. I'm going to use myself as an example here as someone who moved to Quebec and had to integrate myself into the culture here to perfect the language. They're at the beginning of the learning curve. Can we not be understanding and accommodating of that? Because that was me, and as you know, I'm now completely bilingual.
Well, that's why I think it's important to ask people to start learning French before they arrive. I'm not blaming these people at all. All immigrants coming to Quebec have followed the rules. They're not to blame. What is to blame is immigration policies that did not foresee these situations. But if the question is it common for a Francophone living in Montreal not to be served in French in their daily lives? The answer is yes.
I'm sitting here shaking my head. I can't believe that that's the case. I would think there might be an isolated case here or there, but for you to simply say as a blanket statement that this happens on a regular basis, I mean, I don't want to say I don't believe it. I've never encountered it or heard from someone else that this happens on a regular basis. But to your point, I want to make sure I understand this. You seem to be suggesting that immigrants coming here should have a knowledge of French before they arrive here. Is that right?
Well, that's right, because I'm a great admirer of Great Britain, and if you want to move to Great Britain for any reason, you have to show that you learned English before moving to Great Britain. And they do that not because English is on the decline, but because it is a vector of integration when you know at least part of the language before you come.
I wonder how that would have played out in the last wave of immigration here after the Second World War, for example. All the immigrants coming from Europe who mainly did not speak French, they would never have been able to come here at that point. I realize that's not perhaps a necessarily fair example. It was after a war, but do you understand what I'm asking?
Well, the same for the Syrians or Ukrainians. When you talk about refugees, of course, you don't ask them as they're leaving the battlefield to stop by Berlitz. You just take them. And my policy for years has been, well, we'll take them and we say, don't go find a job at McDonald's. We will pay you to learn French before we send you into the labor market. That's the way to do it. But as for immigrants that ask to come, it's going to take a year before you have your permit or whatever. Take this year to take classes of French. We will reimburse them. It is already the policy of Quebec to reimburse these courses if you achieve them, if you're successful. And when you get out of the plane in Dorval, you'll already have a basic knowledge, and then you can grow your knowledge of French when you're there, and at least you can work at delivering food and speak French to all the customers.
I listen, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think it'd be really hard to actually put it into effect, but I like the concept of it. I want to circle back to Sophie Durocher's, the point of her whole column ultimately, though, is to say that Anglophones are a bunch of whiners. Do you agree with that? Are we a bunch of whiners?
I think she's saying that, I'll put her column up. I was not advised that we would discuss this, but I'm glad to do so. I think she's saying that the people who sign these texts,
the columns
and texts, are overreacting, and I would agree with her. But I would agree and defend the right of everyone to overreact to whatever they wish to overreact to.
Well, I will point out, you're right. She names names. I'm actually going to have a couple of them on. But I will tell you, as I said when we asked this question today, she's basically saying anyone who reacts this way, whether you're a columnist at the Montreal Gazette or not, is basically a whining crybaby. And I think that's unfair. And I understand she has a job, but just to,
stir it up and to maintain.
And it's working, but
okay,
I just thought that was an extension.
The title is The Whiners of English.
Yeah.
The Whiners. And then along the last days, the Gazette has published not one, not two, not three, but four columns whining about the poor Anglos. So she's pretty specific that she's talking about these people, because we all know, Sophie, I know Sophie, we all know English Montrealers who are not whiners. We know them.
But don't we have cause to whine to some degree?
I don't even like using the word whine. There's nothing wrong with saying that you're against a policy that's clearly targets Anglophones and Allophones. How is that whining?
Well, there's one, Bill Brownstein writes, cynics have evoked the possibility of banning tourists who would not have an intermediate French knowledge. How would you characterize this Bill Brownstein?
That's not it's not a comment. It's a look ahead to 2024, saying based on policies that have already happened, that he's mentioning something that Jean-François Roberge actually said out loud.
About tourists?
No, Jean-François Roberge said that he hears too much English in the downtown Montreal area.
This reminds me of Richler's joke about the OQLF ticketing a parrot who spoke only English. That made the news in the New York Times and in 60 Minutes. Never happened, never could have happened. There's not a law or a rule that would apply to that. But it became a feature of whining against the Bill 101. And Jerry Brownstein invents a policy that will never happen about tourists. So I think we can laugh at him for saying that.
That's fine. And we are out of time. Listen, I thank you. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you. Always very pleasurable to discuss.
Take good care.
We threw that at you.
This will be the only time this year. Can you promise that?
No. And I wasn't whining. Jean-François Lisée. Jean-François, thank you. Have a happy New Year.